Chapter 12. A Close Call. Jamai didn't hesitate to flip the book page to the beginning of the next chapter and continue reading his godfather's story. Who wrote, "My friend, even being a brilliant preteen child in second heaven, this DeVillain manslayer story was just too enthralling for my human brain to fully comprehend. For why was Joey Simpleman seeing the preteen Mark Mackenzie in a window glass of a minibus? Even the celestial gathering around me was not spared this cognitive famine. Nevertheless, as Angel Saintiana announced the third chapter of her story, I kept my ears clear and my eyes observant. She went on with her story, saying, the high-ace minibus grumbled, and the side door slid aside for Joey to enter the cabin. Thanks for picking me up, Brian, Joey said, as he sat in the first row behind the driver's seat and was being caressed by the air coolant and the fruity scent of the interior. You're running late, preacher, Brian Reeder said sternly, looking at him with a gentle scowl in the rearview mirror, his veiny right hand gripping the steering wheel. Then he added flatly, You've never been late for church as much as I know, but I might be able to redeem some time for you. So you might be safe after all. All said, let's get moving. Brian checked his mirrors and blind spots. Then the bus rolled away from the gate onto the road and began cruising down the avenue, in the same direction in which it had been parked. Joey laid down his Bible on the window seat beside himself and rubbed his face with his damped hands. He should have gone mild on the lotion. He released a puff of tension, thinking it was either now or never to take his shot. Then he leaned forward and dropped his voice. Brother, Can I ask you a simple favor? Brian nodded, checking the mirrors again, his eyebrows furrowed, and his left hand resting laxly on the gear stick. He seemed to be too comfortable heading to their destination to bother him now. Still, Joey drew in a deep breath. Can you pick up my girlfriend in Bladetown? She's ready, waiting on me. I wasn't able to tell you till now. I would really appreciate it. Brian seemed contemplative for a moment, even puzzled. Are you kidding me, preacher? That's on the other side of Simple City. We would definitely reach church late if I do that. And by the way, you're scheduled to speak in less than. Let's see. They both glanced at the time displayed on the dashboard. 20 minutes. Correct. Joey swallowed, then released a puff of breath. Yes, 6 o'clock. But I'll stand guilty before the elders and the church. She's worth the risk, Brian. And I hope to wait for her at the altar one day, and I would want her to show up. Nodding slowly and looking thoughtful, Brian said, Okay, I understand. Then he flashed a side glance at Joey. Do I know her? Joey waved his head side to side. Maybe not. Then Brian said, Do you mind sharing her name? Joey relaxed his shoulders as the bus merged with rush hour traffic on the main street, heading toward West Simple City. Grace Williams, Joey muttered reluctantly. Then he leveled his voice again. She'll be attending our church for the first time, and that should be enough. Brian smiled wryly. Grace. Thank God. My brother has finally found grace in the eyes of the Lord. He laughed haughtily, and Joey felt relieved now that Brian was genuinely happy for him. And yet, if Grace should change her mind about being at Joey's church this evening, he would understand. Joey knew that to be happily married, one must first be happily single, and not be ashamed to appear single to the public. Not being a simple chaser, but more like meeting one's lover at an intersection on the road of one's destiny than walking with one's lover to that place called marriage and family, all through longevity, which is a slow cruise through old age, and then finally rest in death. He bit his bottom lip. This reasoning would be in his sermon later. The Holy Spirit would make sure of that. Brian overtook a red Toyota pickup van that appeared to be weary and heavily laden with bags of agricultural produce. Then Brian asked, Why don't your parents buy you a car and make things easier for you? Joey hesitated, then spoke flatly. Good question. But Dad told me a long time ago that the less material a man has, the more genuine a woman's love will be for him, even if she has to be uncomfortable for a while. Brian said, That sounds bizarre. Still, he might actually have a good point. Then with a thoughtful facial expression he asked, But what does your mom think about that? Joey weighed his next reply. Once again, someone was seeing him as a sponge of his parents, absorbing their liquidated fringe assets. Besides, one of the many things no one but Joey knew about Joey Simpleman was that he was still yearning to be his own boss. And this yearning had begun prodding him at the age of 10, back when he had wanted to be left alone, when he had wanted to run away from home, to be free. Sure, he had privileges now, being the son of Byron and Cynthia Simpleman, an influential and affluent couple residing in a suburban simple city, but he had hardly had the right to be himself, or to pursue his own ambitions before now. And to make matters worse, he was forced early into becoming an active member of a fundamentalist church by his parents, who secretly despised the culture of that church, even though they would donate millions of dollars to the same church's community programs and overseas missions. How ironic that was. So even though Joey was ready for the world of success, he could not attain his major goals on time, because he was too fixated to other people's schedules, orders, plans, and dictates, even those of his parents. But now, enough was enough. "Are you good, bro?" Brian asked, his head held straight and his eyes on the road. Then Joey finally said, "Yep. Mom disagrees to a certain extent, as expected." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means that she's fine as long as a man can procreate and provide at least the basic needs of a family and protect his wife, his children, his house, and his financial and other assets." "And I totally agree with her," Brian said. "My mom is like yours. But I wish I had a dad to tell me all this, to teach me about women." He shook his head and added, "I had a moralist for a father who believed the things you just said. But I think he was a fanatic regarding church doctrines. He was too much church and not enough merch." "Oh yeah," Joey said sympathetically. "He died? Sorry to hear that happened, bro." Brian sighed, then said, "Yeah, my dad died horribly. Long story. But I was raised to adulthood by my uncle. And as you know, Uncle Ray, the leader of conflict resolvers. So, I consider myself a conflict resolver as well. I'll have to continue the mission someday." Joey stared at his conflicted church brother in the mirror. "But that's a good thing, Brian. You have noble roots. Plus, your family leads the church." Brian grinned and said, "True. But your family funds the church." Joey said, "But your family has more morals." Brian said, "Yeah. But your family has money, Joey." Joey replied, "That might be true. But your family called the shots." Brian snickered. Yeah. But your family fires the..." He paused. A white car was approaching the bus head-on, at full speed. "Watch out," Joey yelled. Brian yanked the wheel to his left, narrowly missing a head-on collision with the car. Then he yanked it to his right, and then straightened again on the road, without giving or receiving a hit. Immediately following the skillful maneuvering by Brian, Joey noticed that the mad driver of the car had managed to veer out of the path of an oncoming motorbike from the opposite direction, which in quick response had to dilly-dally to full recovery behind the bus. At that same moment, an occupant of the car at fault pushed his head out through one of the passenger windows and pointed gun fingers at the church bus, firing rapid profanities. Then the car got smaller and smaller before disappearing around a corner. "Phew, my God, that was a close one, bro," Joey said, bemused and flashing his head, feeling a headache coming on. Brian, shaken as well, ranted, "Those fools are crazy, bro. That's why I don't date girls from around here." Joey laughed and patted his driver's left shoulder. "You'll be okay, Brian. Just take it easy and get me to Grace alive and well."